Network Africa, the rallying point for the emergence of a new Africa.
On Network Africa this week, Nigeria experiences another spate of attacks. South-Sudan receives much-needed help. Oscar Pistorius undergoes psychiatric evaluation. And we listen to what people are saying about Sisi as the Egyptian presidential elections inch closer. 2 bombs go off in the terminus market in Jos, and it's nothing short of tragic.
I saw some guys stoning at the Siana without knowing that there was still bomb blast there. So later they were like busy, and people were trying to pursue them from there. They couldn't listen. So when one of them let them put light on the Siana, before we know the bomb blast exploded, the second one.
Then days after the president of South Sudan says his country is on the verge of experiencing famine, the international community comes to the rescue, pledging over $600 million.
The government will allow free movement of delivery of humanitarian food and assistance to all the areas within the Republic of South Sudan. I can assure you, even the rebel areas, they will be allowed to have the relief.
Also, we've got the latest for you concerning the trial of the decade, as the judge orders Oscar Pistorius to undergo psychiatric evaluation.
That the accused remains at the vet corpus hospital until 1600 hours daily, or until such time that he is formally excused by the medical superintendent of the hospital or the person designated by the medical superintendent.
And Libyans are fighting for their rights to press freedom. Hello and welcome to this edition of Network Africa with me, Cynthia Are. As always, we begin at home in Nigeria, and it's on a very unfortunate note. On Tuesday, May the 20th, the terminus market was the scene of the twin explosions in Jos metropolis, north-central Nigeria. The explosions are believed to have been caused by an improvised explosive device which went off in the busy main market. Based on eyewitness accounts, just as people were struggling to comprehend what had just happened and tried to rescue victims of the first explosion, another blast occurred 10 meters away and 15 minutes later.
Traders and shoppers at the famous terminus market in Jos, the Plateau State capital, after a debilitating explosion ripped through the market. The incident shattered the peace and tranquility of the area, making everyone scamper for safety. Moments after, security operatives and men of the Plateau State Fire Service arrive at the scene, trying to take charge. But while they're at it, another explosion occurs.
The only 3 of us that start picking the dead bodies. The ones that are broken, the ones that are dead already, all we pack them together to the Jankwano. And the other ones, the ones who can pack, we pack them to Jankwano, and the other ones who are dead, we left them there before. Like having people in Yopa. We left, the people who left there are so many. Because the bomb blast, when the first one exploded, then the other one, it was a theater, this thing there, a Siana at the downside. There was a Siana at the downside. So I saw some guys stoning at the Siana without knowing that there was still bomb blast there. So later they were like busy, and people were trying to pursue them from there. They couldn't listen. So when one of them let them put light on the Siana, before we know the bomb blast exploded, the second one. That's what I know.
For now, everything about the blast is still shrouded in mystery. But as the days go by, more facts will be revealed.
Now, outside of our shores, but staying in the African continent, things seem to be looking up in South Sudan as killings have descended dramatically, and donors, including the US and the UK, have pledged more than $600 million in aid to the country during a conference in Norway. Now, that sum will go towards the target of $1.8 billion, which was the figure given by the UN, and it says it's a necessity in preventing millions of South Sudanese people from starving to death.
South Sudan has had plenty to deal with since December last year. Hundreds have been brutally killed, at least 1 million have been displaced, and now the country has to deal with the scourge of cholera, which according to the World Health Organization has killed at least 9 people so far.
Cholera in the capital Juba on Thursday.
Since the outbreak in the capital Juba late last week, the reported cholera caseload has doubled every day, with new reported cases in 2 additional states, Jonglei and Upper Nile. In the capital, an emergency ward has been set up to handle cholera cases at Juba Teaching Hospital.
We are trying to coordinate our efforts between the different groups, the cleaners, the doctors, and whoever is doing what. We are trying to establish it. It is only yesterday that we finished the training of the staff working here. Now we are trying to improve on. What is significant is that since this center was established, there is no death cases reported within the center. The 3 cases which were reported to have died in the hospital actually died on the way coming to the center.
Another major issue which the country is faced with is that of malnutrition. In order to tackle that, UNICEF has supplied tents, hygiene equipment, clean water and oral rehydration solutions for treatment. Hundreds of people have been trained over the past few days to inform and mobilize communities.
We are also working inside with the nurses and the doctors from the hospital, providing ORS to the children and to the women that are affected, and also to all the other patients. And we are also improving the water and sanitation situation inside of the hospital.
The needs of South Sudan have been so glaring that it caught the attention of the international community, which has now been able to raise more than $600 million so far to rescue the country, which is literally on the verge of famine. Donors including the United States, Britain and Norway agreed to give more than $600 million US on top of the $536 million already pledged.
I think that what we're facing at the moment is that by December of this year, 1 in 2 citizens in South Sudan, that's over 6 million people, will either have been displaced, be starving, or be dead.
Clashes between rebels and government forces have wrecked food markets and forced people to abandon their livestock and land. The blame game is still going on as regards who is behind the violence which has done so much damage in so little time, and who might be hindering relief agencies from accessing the worst affected areas.
They want to go to the areas under control of the opposition. They make a lot of difficulties to these UN agencies and to the international NGOs not to go to those areas.
However, South Sudan's Foreign Minister Barnaba Mariel Benjamin gave his assurance that the delivery of humanitarian aid would be allowed to move freely.
The government will allow free movement of delivery of humanitarian food and assistance to all the areas within the Republic of South Sudan. I can assure you, even the rebel areas, they will be allowed to have the relief.
No matter who is to blame for the violence, it's now a race against time to save South Sudan, which has literally become a shadow of itself.